welcome to another Lawn Fawn video. Today we are so excited to introduce our die Flamingo Floatie. This is one of my favorite in our summer release, so let's go ahead and check it out. This die of course has the Flamingo Floatie. It also has this little oval piece that's the backer for behind the floatie and a little wing that you can add to. It has two different pieces for the beak and this little sunglasses and a circle to add behind the eye. So let's start putting all of these pieces together. We're going to add some liquid glue to the back of the Flamingo Floatie, and then we're going to layer the oval piece behind it. And this is going to give kind of that shadow that makes it look like a floatie that you can kind of hang out in, right? So you'll see as we flip it over, how cool is that? Next, we're going to add some liquid glue all around the eye opening there, and then that little tiny black circle is perfect for filling in the eye and adding that detail. Then we're going to layer the two pieces for the beak. So I like to cut this one in a white or a gray cardstock, and then we can add the bottom detail for the beak out of some black cardstock. And our other pieces are cut from guava and raspberry cardstock. Then next we can add that cute little wing on, so we're going to add some liquid glue to the back of that and then layer that right onto the floatie. And there's something about the wing that just makes it. And then I love that there's these awesome little sunglasses. They look really cute on the Flamingo Floatie or off. You can also shift it up on the flamingo's head as if he's got this, the sunglasses up on the top of his head, which is really, really cute too. The flamingo looks great with one wing, but you can also add a second wing to him too. And so to do that, we've die cut a second wing here, and we're just going to add some tape runner to the very bottom of this wing, the bottom and the front of it, and then you're just going to tuck it right behind. You'll see it really makes it look like one of those flamingo floaties. It's funny because I make a card in this video and I forgot to add the second wing, and I think I'm going to go back and add it later. Now, this Flamingo Floatie was designed with a really cool idea in mind, and that was to use all of these awesome bookmark style dies so that you could put critters into the Flamingo Floatie. So these are these different characters that we have for these different bookmark / tag style dies that we've come out with over the years. So this one's called Slow Down and Enjoy. This one was our very first one, which is called For You Dear. So we have an elephant, a sloth, and a bear and a deer. This set is called Don't Worry, Be Hoppy, and it has a little bunny and a frog. And then, of course, we have the brand new set from the summer release, which is Dream Big, and that has the unicorn and the dragon. And those guys are some of my favorites to add to this Flamingo Floatie because there's just something so adorable about it. When you die cut these awesome bookmark characters, it gives this cool little fold so that you can tuck these characters into different things. And so now you can tuck them into the Flamingo Floatie. So you'll see we're just going to kind of tuck the back part of his body right into the floatie, and then his little paws or hooves are hanging out in the front. The other really great thing is that those sunglasses look really, really cute on a lot of these characters too. So you can add it to the Flamingo Floatie or to our awesome bookmark tag style characters. So now here is a look at the different characters in the Flamingo Floatie, and I just can't take how cute this is. There's a little bunny, and there he is with his sunglasses, just hanging out in his floatie. Here we're going to tuck in the little bear and the elephant. Then we have the sloth, who's one of my favorites because he would definitely love hanging out in a pool floatie. Of course, we have to add our deer. It's lawnfawn, and he looks really great with his sunglasses on too. We can add the cute little frog in there as well. Oh, this is just so adorable. And then we have our new characters. We have the dragon, which is just too funny. And then, of course, we can go back to our adorable little unicorn. So fun and so cute. Now it's time to create some cards with this adorable Flamingo Floatie, and we're going to start off by creating our own black and white stripe paper using the Skinny Stripe stencil. So we're going to line that up on a piece of cardstock here, and we're going to ink it up with some black licorice ink. And I love the bold look of black and white stripe paper, and I love that the stencil means that I can kind of create my own custom stripe paper. And Audrey does a really cool thing in this card where she layers it behind. You'll see how we do it, and it's such a cool look, and I need to remember to do this on other cards. Now the best part, of course, is peeling up that stencil and seeing the reveal of that nice, bold black and white stripe. Now we're going to do a little more stenciling, and we're going to be using the Sunray stencil. And this is kind of a fun way to use it because we want the sun up towards the top of the card. We're going to be adding some die cut waves above the top of it, so we can just layer that right up towards the top, and we can have those nice skinny rays at the very top of the card. So I love that there's easy ways to get lots of different looks with these. Now this is a sunflower ink, which is a nice bold yellow, almost with a little orange in it. And we're going to have it a little bit darker towards the bottom and then lighter up towards the top. So you can see how that's kind of looking there, and it's just so pretty. Then we're going to peel up that stencil, and we're going to take a lighter colored ink, and this is butter. So this is a lighter ink. We're going to use the bottom of the stencil as a mask just to protect the rest of that cardstock. And then we're going to ink all over this so that it's not a stark white to yellow, but a very light yellow to yellow. Does that make sense? So we're just going to add a little bit of that butter ink over top, and it just kind of softens the difference between those bold rays and the white cardstock. Now here we have some ocean wave borders dies, and I love these so much. And so we're going to die cut 4 different ocean waves here out of this beautiful textured cardstock. Then we're going to take some Forget-Me-Not ink, which is just a little bit of a darker blue, kind of in the same family, and we're going to ink over these waves just to add a little bit of texture. And I just love the look of using cardstock, but then adding a little bit of inking to it. It means that you're not trying to ink the whole thing in blue, like you starting with white cardstock, but it does give you that really cool ink blended look, and I think it's just so pretty, and it really makes the stitching stand out too. Now we can start to layer all of these pieces over top. So we're going to be layering it right over the edge of that stenciling. Although I really do like that edge there. It looks really cool, like the horizon. But we're just going to cover up that edge just a little bit. And then we're going to layer all of the waves down below this. And then you'll notice that these waves were a bit too long. We didn't need to cut so much cardstock. The good thing is the base piece that we stenciled on was the exact perfect size. So we can just go ahead and trim off just a little bit. And that's going to be 5¼ by 4 because we're going to have a little border around this at the end. So now we can start to work on our scene. And of course, we're going to take the unicorn from the Dream Big stamp set because he needs to be hanging out in this little floaty. So we're going to take him, and you'll see the die cut has die cut the little paws there so that we can tuck him right into the float. And here, I love how Rebecca did this. She has like one little paw in and one paw out. I think it's just such a cute look. Next, we're going to add some foam squares to the back of the floaty and the unicorn and then layer that into the scene. And then to help set the scene, we're going to die cut some simple puffy cloud frames. And I love these frame dies because what they do is they give the look of clouds without covering up your whole background. So we inked and stenciled this beautiful sunray. I didn't want to cover up with these big clouds. So by adding the frames, it gives the feel of clouds in the background without taking over maybe a pattern paper or a stenciled or inked background. So we're going to layer all of these pieces into the sky. And we're going to take out the Smooth Sailing stamp set, and in that set you'll see there's these really cute little seagulls, and there's kind of like a little silhouette. We're going to be stamping those in some black licorice ink. You'll see as soon as we add those into the sky, it just makes the whole scene. And this card is a recreation of a card by Audrey, and oh my gosh, Audrey, I mean this whole scene is just gorgeous, and the little seagulls just make it. I love it. Now for our sentiment, we're going to die cut a stitched wavy banner out of some white cardstock, and we're going to be stamping with these awesome wavy sentiments. And what I love about these wavy sayings is that they're the perfect wave that matches all of our wavy banners. Does that make sense? They're all waved in the same way, so you can just stamp it right away and not worrying about having to curve it on your block. So we're going to stamp waving hello, which is of course really great for this whole kind of ocean scene. And then we're going to finally secure this awesome floaty there, kind of overlapping the sentiment, which helps kind of tie everything all in together. And then we're going to bring back that stencil piece we did at the beginning, that black and white piece, and we're going to trim this down. And we're going to be trimming it down so that it ends up being about 3½ inches tall or so. And you'll see how we're going to layer this behind here. I always love, Audrey does this a lot, and I think it's such a cool look. So we're going to add some tape runner to the back of our awesome ocean panel. And then we're going to add some tape runner to a card base that's 5½ by 4¼ and we're going to layer that piece right there in the center. So the stripes aren't going all the way to the top or all the way to the bottom. They're right in the center of the card. And then we can layer this piece on top. So we have a white border all the way around and the little black and white peeking out. I feel like it just makes the whole card, and it really brings a lot of attention to the beak and the seagulls, which I think is so cute. Now, next up, we're going to be creating a slider card with this floaty. I'm going to start off with some more stenciling, and we're going to use the Tropical Leaves backdrop. This came out last year and it's one of my favorites, and I'm so excited that it's summertime again so that I can use it. And we're going to be inking this up with some peacock ink. And so we're just going to ink over the stencil. This is a 2-step stencil so that you can do 2 different colors of leaves, but in this case we're just going to be using one color all of the way around. Now we're recreating a really gorgeous slider card by Megan, and she created a different type of background, but I thought these tropical leaves would be be so much fun. It ended up looking really cool, and it almost looks like the textures of a bottom of a pool, which is so fun. So now we're going to take the second stencil. I'm just looking through the stencil and lining it up so that we can fill in the whole background of these leaves. And once again, we're going to use the same color. This stencil looks really great, either one color or two-tone. Both ways are really, really awesome. So we're going to ink up all of the leaves, creating this really amazing pattern. Now we can lift up the stencil and reveal this beautiful, gorgeous tropical leaf pattern. Now the peacock against the white cardstock was a little bit too bold for the look I wanted, so I'm taking the peacock ink again and just inking over the whole panel. The cool thing is that as you ink over the panel, you're also inking over the leaves that already exist, so it makes the leaves darker and it gives you this great two-tone between the background and the leaves. Now to add a little bit more of that pool texture, I'm spraying it with just some plain water from a spray bottle, and then I'm just picking up any of the excess water, and you'll see that it's going to give it a little bit of texture and hopefully make it look even more like a kind of cool tropical hotel pool. I'm going to put this aside to dry and start working on some other elements of the card. Now, eventually we're going to be die cutting that tropical leaf piece with this awesome stitch wavy backdrop. But we're also going to die cut it out of some white cardstock, and we're going to actually trim out one of the pieces, and that's going to become kind of like a sand for this kind of beach pool scene, right? I'm imagining one of those resort pools that has like the cool kind of fake beach and it goes into the awesome pool, right? So we're going to cut off the bottom of this wavy panel, and we're going to be inking it up. And we're using my new favorite combo. Jacqueline in the office came up with this, and it's sugar cookie and pizza crust, and it's the best sandy look. And so what we're going to do is we're going to take the sugar cookie ink, and we're going to start off with this lighter ink and ink it up, and then we're going to add some details with the darker ink, which is the pizza crust. To give it a bit of a sandy look, we're going to take an even darker brown, which is dough, and we're going to smear that onto this craft mat here. I'm going to spray it with some water, mix it up with my paintbrush, and then I'm going to tap the paintbrush to create splatters. Now, as I tapped those splatters, they were a little faint, so I wanted to make it darker, so I smeared a little bit more ink, and now I'm kind of adding that inky water to the other ink to make it a little bit darker, tapping the paintbrush again, and you can see now I have two different tones of beautiful little dots that's going to give this great sandy texture. Now I'm going to put that aside to dry as well, and we're going to work on our Flamingo Floatie. It's cut from Ballet Slippers cardstock, and then the backing piece is some Guava Cardstock. We're also going to die cut, of course, the little beak details, the sunglasses, and the little backer piece for the eyes. Now to add some nice inking to this so it goes along with the rest of our inky card, we're going to use some Ballet Slippers ink and then some bubblegum ink to just add a little bit of detail. So I'm just going along the edge of the die cut, and it's just making it look shaded and like it just has a little extra something to it, right? And then here you can see is when I brought in that bubblegum ink, this is a little bit darker just to add a little extra shading on there because the Ballet Slippers was just a little too close to the color of the cardstock. Now I'm going to add some tape runner to the back of the Flamingo Floatie, and then we're going to layer that piece that's the guava ink right behind to give it just some nice little detail, a little shadow there. And then we're going to add the wing to the Flamingo Floatie too. And this is the one where I wish I had added a second wing, so I might go back to my card and add it later. We'll add some tape runner to the back and add the little black circle to the back of the eye to fill in the eye. And then for the little beak, I'm just adding a little bit of detail. This is fog cardstock, which is a really nice gray, and I added a light gray marker on there just so that it would match the rest of the inking, and it was just easier to use a marker than bring out an ink just for such a tiny piece. And then I'm going to layer the rest of the beak on this Flamingo Floatie. This time we're going to take those sunglasses and we're going to put it at the top of his head, kind of like he's wearing them on the top of his head. I just think that's just so funny. It cracks me up. And then to add some nice detail, we're going to take a white gel pen and just add some curved lines around the flamingo. I also added a little rosy cheek too with a marker, which I thought was really pretty. And you can see as we add these white gel pen lines, there's something about it. It just makes it feel kind of three-dimensional. It really gives a fun, cartoony feel to it, and you can really add those lines anywhere where there's like a little curve, and it's going to look great. Now our tropical leaves background is finally dry, and we're going to be die cutting it with that same stitched wavy backdrop that we did for the sand. So we're going to die cut that pattern, and that's going to give us this really great wave texture on the cool background that we made. So I just really love everything that's going on with this. Now we can take the piece that we colored as sand earlier. Because we die cut it from the same die cut, we can just layer that right over top. Now it's time to work on our slider mechanism. So we're going to be using the slide on over waves because it has this nice little bumpy wave that really goes along with the bumpy waves of that die cut backdrop. And so we're going to take this piece and we're just going to put it right in the center of the card in between two of the waves of the die cut. We'll hold it in place with some low tack tape and then run it through the die cut machine. When we run it through the die cut machine, we've got our awesome little wavy track, and we also have the interior piece. I'm going to make sure to save that piece because we're going to use that in just a little bit. We're going to cut down some peacock cardstock to be the base for the slider. So I'm just going to cut a piece to layer behind it. And I like using a cardstock in a similar color so that everything blends and looks really nice together. Now, when I like to create sliders, I like to use triple foam. There's something about the extra height that really makes a nice moving slider. So here I have my foam tape, and what I'm doing is I'm doubling it up and sticking it to each other. And then what I'm going to do is then triple it up. So I'm going to take one more layer and stick it to that, and that's going to give me some nice triple height foam. You can also use foam squares. With foam squares, a double height is probably good because foam squares tend to be a little bit taller than foam tape. So now that I have my triple height foam, I'm going to take this and cut these pieces down. I'm going to add 2 large pieces to the top and the bottom because my penny slider isn't going to be anywhere near there, so I don't need to worry about being in the way of the slider movement. Then I'm going to add some skinnier pieces that I trimmed down with my scissors to the side. And at this point, I'm going to stop adding foam to the background and work on the slider, and then we'll add a little extra foam later. I don't like the foam to get too close until I built the whole thing because I don't want the foam to be in the way of the movement of my slider. Now I have that tripled up foam here, and I'm taking my scissors and I'm cutting a nice thin little piece here. So it's thin enough to move in that slider mechanism. And then I'm going to trim it down to be a little bit smaller than the width of a penny. Now, if you don't live somewhere where there's pennies, a washer from a hardware store works really great for this too. Now I've attached that piece of foam onto the penny, and this is the trick for sliders. I'm taking an anti-static powder tool and I'm going all the way around the edge of that foam piece. I don't want any extra stickiness getting in the way of the movement, and so by running that powder tool, it's going to take away any tackiness and really help it move. And now you can see how that piece fits perfectly in that slider. So I have the penny on the back, the piece of foam sticking through that little slider track, and now I can stick my Flamingo Floatie right on down. And that's all there is to making a slider. They're so easy and so cool. Now I flipped it over because I want to add some more foam so that the card is nice and supportive, but now that the penny's there, it gives me kind of a nice guide as to where the foam needs to go. So I'm just trimming down some skinnier pieces of that tripled up foam, and I'm just kind of adding it all the way of the round. I'm moving the penny around to make sure it's not in the way of the movement, and then I can peel up all of that liner paper and attach this piece down on there. And if you've never made a slider before, make sure to check out our intro to slide on over video. It has a ton of great tips that you will love. Now remember that slider die cut piece that we saved? We're going to actually add that in now, and that's going to give the slider more of a continuous look, and it kind of helps hide the track and makes the card a little more magical. So I'm just going to add some tape runner to the back of this, and I'm just going to feed it underneath the floatie and underneath the penny. This is actually easier to do than you would think. You can just kind of feed it right in and then press down and secure it in place, and you can see that it just like perfectly extends the pattern, and it really helps that slider part just kind of blend into the card. Now next up, we're going to take out our tropical leaves dies to go along with our tropical leaves background. And we're going to die cut that out of some peacock cardstock and also out of cilantro cardstock. And we're going to be adding some inking to these with clover and rainforest. And clover and cilantro looks magical. You will love this ink blending combo. There you'll see I added a little bit of too much extra ink to the top of it, so I'm just going to blend that out. And then I'm going to keep blending that clover ink onto the cilantro. And isn't that just so pretty? I just love the combo of this ink with that cardstock. Now for the peacock cardstock, we're going to be using some rainforest ink, and we're going to ink the edges of these too. And once again, this is really quick and easy. This just took me a couple minutes to do, but it really helps bring the die cuts to life. And because so much of the card is inked and stenciled, it also just kind of helps integrate all of these different elements and make them look like they work really, really well together. Little flowers are cut from Ballet Slippers cardstock, and we're using some guava ink to just add some shading to those. And then now we can take all of these pieces and start to layer them onto the card. And I just loved how Megan layered these onto her card. By creating these cute little clusters of leaves at the top 2 corners, it kind of helps frame in the whole scene, and it brings a lot of attention to the flamingo in the center. So I'm just adding some liquid glue to these and then just layering them on top. And you'll see some pieces are sticking off the side. That's okay. We're going to use our scissors to trim those off later. Now I'm layering in the flowers and then I'm just trimming off the hibiscus stems and just layering those right on top. And then I'm using a little gem for the center of the flower. And I really like that little extra sparkle. I feel like it's just really cute in summertime. So I'm adding liquid glue to the back of the little gem and then layering that on. Now there's this really great set which is called Flamingo Together. And we're going to use one of the sentiments from that on this awesome stitched wavy banner. So we have the You Flamingo Girl, and we're going to stamp that in some clear embossing ink, and we're going to add some white heat embossing powder to this black cardstock. And it's going to be a really nice bold greeting. So we'll sprinkle that on, top off any of the excess, and then we can heat that up with the heat tool. And I love that bold, shiny look, and I love that it kind of matches the beak of the flamingo too. I think it looks really, really cute. So I'm going to add some liquid glue to the back of this and we're going to attach that down into the sand of the card. And then to kind of help ground the sentiment, we're going to add some more leaves and things behind it. So these are some more of those tropical leaves and we're just going to layer some pieces behind and then some pieces in front. And I feel like that just kind of brings the whole thing together and it brings all of our cool little different tropical leaves looks together too. Add some more gems for the center of those flowers, and then we're going to take a standard size card base that's 5.5 by 4.25, and we're going to add some adhesive to that, and then we can layer our whole slider mechanism on top. Now at the end of this, I had die cut and inked too many leaves, so I thought, you know what, I'm just going to layer them on the inside of the card, and look how cute that looks. So when I write my message, there's just going to be this pretty little surprise inside, and that's a fun way to use extra die cuts that you may not have put on your card. And now our card is all done, and look at that little flamingo just bouncing along that wavy slide on over track. It's so cute and so much fun. I just can't take it. Look how adorable this is. It was just such a blast to make. And then here you can see you can also tilt the card back and forth and have that fun little slider motion of that flamingo. Now, next up, we have some incredible cards by the design team, and we're going to start off first with a card by Yainea, and I just love the inking that she did. It's so gorgeous, and that Hello Sunshine is a perfect sentiment. This card by Letitia is so gorgeous. I love that little rainbow background she created out of cardstock strips. Here, Kara brought our cute little mice to hang out in the Flamingo Floatie, and I cannot wait to make a card just like this one. I love that the mice are so perfect for it. And then here's that card by Megan that inspired us to make ours today. This card by Mindy is so happy and so much fun. I love that beautiful background, and she used the sunray coming in from an angle, and I love that look. This card by Audrey is so gorgeous and so sweet, and of course it's the one that inspired us to make our card today. And then here, this card by Elise is so fun. I love that sunray backdrop in the background. I love how Lynette used the pool party critters in the Flamingo Floatie. It's so clever and cute, and they are a perfect match for this die set. And then here, this card is so fun. I love the little sloth hanging out in the float. So adorable and cute. And then here you can see a beautiful layout by Melissa, and I love that this awesome Flamingo Floatie is a perfect match for layouts too. So we cannot wait to see what you guys create with this die, so make sure to share it with us. Thank you so much for watching today, and I hope you have an absolutely amazing day. Bye!